This is the brand new Peloton Row, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you everything I learned about it when I went down to my local Peloton store here in Santa Monica. First, walking into the Peloton showroom, one of the first things I noticed about this rowing machine is how beautiful it is. It's just a very good looking piece of equipment, just like any other product Peloton makes. The second thing I noticed is it actually shares the exact same 24-inch rotating touchscreen you find on the Peloton Bike Plus. One thing that caught me by surprise is the rotating touchscreen on the rowing machine actually only rotates 45 degrees to each side and not all the way around. The next thing that the Peloton rowing machine has in common with other products Peloton makes is this is a very expensive rowing machine. It costs about $3,200, and that's before the all-access membership fee of about $45 a month. So when you sit down to use the Peloton rowing machine, the first thing you need to do is go through a calibration process. And what this does is basically calibrate the machine to your particular body.
Remember, the finish is when our legs are straight and we are leaning back to 11 o'clock.
It just takes a few minutes of rowing, and the calibration process will have you hold the row at a few different places. And this whole calibration process is actually super cool because it enables a feature on the Peloton Row that I'll show you here just in a little bit. So it will stop and show where you're at in the motion. So if I don't do a full row, it'll show like that.
Oh, wow. That is so cool.
So we'll save that calibration. So after you complete the calibration process, then you can choose to look at the studio rows, or if you'd like to, you can go over and look at scenic rows, or you can do a free row session, which if you don't pay for the Peloton All Access membership, the free row session is the only kind of rowing you can do, but you still get your metrics doing the free row. So right now this is where the scenic rows will be. Right now there's only one because it just launched, but as we know, Peloton will be adding more. At the time I recorded this video at the Peloton store, there was about 20 studio rowing classes and also 5 Peloton rowing instructors. And while I was there at the store, I decided to try one of the studio classes to see how the Peloton rowing machine felt. So before we get started in the rowing session, let's talk about the oar or the hand grip, as well as the place where your feet strap in and the seat that you sit on. So the oar is relatively thick, and I find it really nice to hold on to. It has a really nice, comfortable grip. It does have a slight arch to it, so it's not perfectly straight. There is a bit of a bend in it, just slightly. As far as where your feet sit, I actually find this to be the cheapest looking part of the Peloton Row. The actual straps that go over your feet are just fine. However, the plastic adjustment that you move up and down to get your particular foot to fit in there just right, I'd have to say it seems a little bit less precisely engineered than the rest of this machine. So it can range from 1 all the way to 7. I have it on 6 for a size 14 shoe. With regards to the actual seat of the rower that you will be sitting on, I find it to be very comfortable. It has a lot of cushion and it felt great to sit on. One thing that I noticed right away while I started to use this rowing machine is it is basically 100% silent. Obviously, it's hundreds of times quieter than a rowing machine that has actual water in it. And it's even quieter than some of the other magnetic resistance rowing machines I've tried in the past. In the past, some of the magnetic resistance rowing machines I've tried just really didn't feel quite right. They seemed kind of cheap and not very good. And before I tried out the Peloton rowing machine, I was a little bit concerned that it might have the same feel as some of these other rowing machines I've tried before. However, that was not the case at all with the Peloton rowing machine. This thing felt excellent. Everything from the stroke pulling all the way back, the resistance felt very uniform and strong, and the catch moving forward felt very smooth and natural as well. So in the beginning of a row session, there's 2 new options that we have to choose from. One is drag factor and the other is pace target level. Now the drag factor, you're probably not going to actually want to really mess with. It gives you a medium level to start with. The reason you don't need to mess with this is because the harder you pull, the more resistance the Peloton Row is going to give you. For most people, this is probably going to work just fine as is, but you can adjust it from 0 all the way up to 220. Now the other new button here is the pace target level, and this works a little bit differently than Peloton has worked in the past on their cycling bikes. On the cycling bikes, you basically get a resistance number and a cadence number that the instructors give you. and this determines the intensity of your workout. On the Peloton Row, the system works entirely different, where the instructors basically tell you easy, moderate, challenging, or max. And these ranges are going to be completely different depending on which pace target level you choose. So in the beginning of a row session, you choose which pace target level you would like to do, and then you can also change it on the screen live while in a rowing session. Once you start a Peloton row session, the metrics you will see on the screen are your total distance in meters, total strokes, average pace, and your ability to adjust your pace, which is just how many minutes it takes per 500 meters, and then your maximum pace for this session, as well as your current power output in watts, and your stroke rate, which is your RPMs, and then your calories and total output for the rowing session. Now, I'll be the first to admit that my rowing form is far from perfect. And if you're anything like me, you might not have a ton of experience with rowing, which is what makes the form assist feature on the Peloton Row so awesome. So what this feature does is basically highlight your little character on the left of the Peloton Row screen, and it shows you precisely the part of your rowing action that you're messing up on. So apparently there's like a couple sensors inside the Peloton Row, and it tracks your motion throughout your rowing stroke. And based on this data, it can tell you exactly what you need to correct in your rowing motion in order to perfect it. So honestly, it can be a little bit addicting, kind of keeping your eyes on that little character and trying to correct every single stroke of your row. But I think what really makes this feature super useful is it actually collects all this data throughout the course of your rowing session. And then at the end of your rowing session, it gives you a summary and shows you exactly where you need to work on your rowing form. So unlike riding the Peloton bike, which is pretty straightforward how to pedal a bike, rowing is actually not quite as straightforward. It actually takes a little bit of work to perfect your form on rowing. And if you don't do it properly, you can actually injure yourself in the process of rowing. So even though rowing is like super awesome since it works such a great percentage of the muscles in your body, lower body and upper body, it's like 80% of all the muscles in your body get worked during a rowing session. It is possible to slaughter the entire movement and cause more harm than good. So I think that the form assist feature on the Peloton Row is just great. Form rating, 71%. I have some room for improvement. It breaks down the form into catch, drive, finish, and recovery, so I can use some definite improvement on the catch as well as the drive. And then if you scroll down, it actually breaks down the 4 individual motions of a rowing stroke, and it shows you exactly which part of that motion you're messing up. So after your workout is over with the Peloton Row, you can really get some insightful data about how to improve your rowing stroke. I really find this feature and this data logging of the Peloton Row to be super impressive. So now let's talk about the size and how this thing stores, and then I'll leave you with my final thoughts of the Peloton Row. As far as the user requirements for this machine go, the maximum height listed for it is 6'5", which I am 6'5". And for the foot stretcher, the men's size shoe listed is 13.5 for maximum. I would have to say I am pretty close to the maximum height for this machine. However, I do think it could fit somebody probably a few inches taller than 6'5". The minimum height range is 4'11", and the maximum weight for the machine is listed at 300 pounds. The actual machine weight is 156.5 pounds, of which most of that weight is up in the front by where the screen is. And the total length of the machine is 7 feet 10 inches long. So even though this machine is really long, once you store it upright, the footprint of it is pretty darn small. It's a lot smaller than an exercise bike. However, in order to store it upright, you will need to have ceilings that are at least 8 feet high. And lifting the whole machine is really easy since they do have a handle kind of in the middle of the rowing machine. So even if you can't reach the top, it's all right. And of course, it is a really heavy machine, so if you have little ones around, you definitely would not want this thing falling over on them. And Peloton does include a strap that you can mount on the wall to prevent this thing from tipping over. So what are my final thoughts on the Peloton Row? Well, this is another beautiful addition to the Peloton product lineup, and I really like that you can get a full body workout using this rowing machine. And I really love the form assist feature and the form rating and all of the insights Peloton gives you for your rowing form. However, obviously the elephant in the room is the price tag of $3,200 plus the all access membership fee. So overall, I'd say if you can afford it and you want a full body workout, go for it. However, if price is a concern and you're looking for a more budget-friendly rowing option, you can watch my review of this more affordable rower by clicking here now. Thanks for watching, guys. If you found this review helpful, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see ya in my next one.